If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. I'm your host, the Innkeeper, and this is our live call-in talk show all about the Wheel of Time. Tonight, we're talking about Rosamund Pike and her career and becoming Moiraine. But before we do that, I want to remind you this Sunday, we have a fun Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime episode coming up. We're going to talk about the best off-screen scenes from the books and which of those we should carry into the show. Which one is we're hoping that Rafe and his team see and believe the same as us. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you come back on Sunday for that. But now, before I bring my guests in, let me set the stage by sharing a little bit more about Rosamund. Born in London, Rosamund Pike grew up the child of professional opera singers. So it's no surprise she became a fan of the arts, appearing as Juliet in Romeo and Juliet at the National Youth Theatre when she was 18. Of this time, she says, everything came out during those years, and NYT was a really safe place to be kind of stupid, to fail, to succeed. During this time, she attended Oxford and acted in a variety of plays, taking time away to appear on British television, in A Rather English Marriage, Wives and Daughters, and Love in a Cold Climate. And it didn't take long after graduating for Rosamund to leap into stardom, landing the role of Miranda Frost, an MI6 agent and Bond girl, in Die Another Day. This was the first of many moments where she rubbed shoulders with well-known stars such as Pierce Brosnan and Dame Judi Dench. Shortly after her days as a Bond girl, she co-starred with Johnny Depp in The Libertine, winning Best Supporting Actress at the British Independent Film Awards. Over the ensuing decade, Rosamund Pike took on various memorable roles in Pride and Prejudice, Wrath of Titans, and Jack Reacher, to name a few. But it was in 2014 in which she earned her place among the stars in the minds of the international audience with her award-nominated and award-winning role as Amy Dunn, a woman who goes missing on her 5th wedding anniversary in David Fincher's adaptation of the best-selling novel Gone Girl. And most recently, Rosamund won a Golden Globe for her role as con artist Marla Grayson in the acclaimed crime thriller I Care a Lot. Her roles have been wide and varied from theater and TV to independent films and blockbusters, but it's her role as Moiraine in the upcoming The Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime TV series that is the most meaningful to us tonight. So with that introduction, let's discuss becoming Moiraine. And to do that with me, I have two distinguished guests. Let me welcome to the show Rebecca from Reading the Pattern and Marcel, I want to say, from What Song Parody Notoriety.
That's fair.
Thank you both for being here. It's awesome to see you.
I'm so excited.
So, Rebecca, before we jump into this, do you want to take like just 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it is, just give us a quick summary of what fans can find at Reading the Pattern, your YouTube channel?
Okay. Yeah, so lately on Reading the Pattern, I've been digging into, in addition to just the usual like Wheel of Time show news, which I cover and try to do my own spin on with speculation and things like that, I'm trying to do a lot with adaptations. So other, book to screen adaptations, especially in the fantasy genre, looking at some other, is then pulling out like, what kind of changes did they make? Why did they make them? And what effect did it have? Kind of using that to speculate about Wheel of Time as an adaptation. And then also just taking topics from the books and, sort of giving my take on how certain things might need to be adapted, what kinds of changes might need to be made. So I did one on Moiraine, for example, like how to adapt
Nice.
Moiraine.
Well, that's good. Well, make sure to check out, I think I have Rebecca's link in the description of this video. Make sure to check out the Reading the Pattern YouTube channel. Rebecca's great. I love your analysis. That's why I'm excited for you to be here tonight to talk about Moiraine. And Marcel, you still, I think I told you this, I love watching your WAP parody song that you did about the ways. It's amazing, the Black Wind. Now, before we jump into this, do you have any of the other WAP song parodies that you're kind of keeping back for the next challenge, or you working on some new ones?
I have a couple. And if you follow me on Twitter, I'll post some songs about Wheel of Time some of the times. But yeah, I do have a couple other songs that didn't make the cut that I'm thinking about releasing. And so I'll hold back one for next year.
Okay, but at least give us a little hint. What's the top? Can you give us like a topic, maybe like a hint on it?
It was going to be about Rand for sure.
About Rand? But, okay, yeah. Okay. Sweet. Okay, that's awesome. Well, thank you both for being here tonight. We're here to talk about Rosamund Pike's career. I think a lot of fandom for the last 2 years now have been reacting to casting, right? And we're getting all sorts of opinions as fans. We've been fan casting for decades. And so obviously actually getting actors picked for these roles has been quite the fun experience for some, and I guess for a few not so fun. But when it comes to Rosamund Pike, before we jump into the first kind of film role that we're going to talk about tonight, Rebecca, when she was cast, did she immediately become Moiraine in your head? Was this who, or what did you think about when this took place?
Yeah, when I heard that news, I mean, I was really just so thrilled because obviously I knew her as an actress, and it was like, no, this is real. Like, this is a really high caliber actress who was in this role. And so I'm like, they're taking this so seriously because they've landed someone like her in this role. So that just had me so excited. And like, I knew about the show coming out before then, but that was the first thing that made me go, I need to know everything about this now because of Rosamund Pike. And, it was really just that, like, I knew that she could pull off a great role, so even if she hadn't been who I had envisioned before, I just know that she's a fantastic actress.
Yeah. I think I was right there with you in the sense of, I was just so excited, I guess, to have someone with such experience in this role that I think can certainly carry. I immediately, right, we're going to talk about this tonight, like, can she become Moiraine? And I immediately, in the moment that they cast her, I was like, I think she can pick up basically any role. So yes. Marcel, where were you at when you kind of were made aware of Rosamund Pike becoming Moiraine?
I was pretty much in the same place. There's like, when you hear her name, I hadn't been so familiar with all of her movies, but I knew she was an award winner. And, and so I think around that time is when I first watched one of her movies. I think it was Gone Girl at the time. And I'm just, I was just kind of blown away by that performance. And then ever since, I've just she is Moiraine to me in a lot of ways, because I could see it. I could see how it can work. And, from the table read, I got a good sense of how she's going to play it. And, she's just such a strong actor. So I think it's going to be great.
We'll definitely play the table read tonight again for everyone watching. If you didn't ever somehow, you're here and you never saw the table read, we'll definitely play that here. I think you're right. Gone Girl, I'm kind of curious out there, viewers, we're going to be talking about Gone Girl. I know that was a huge role. I know people have lots of opinions about it, so that will be one that we do discuss. But why don't we do that? Why don't we jump into talking about some of the roles? For those of you out there, if you've watched these Becoming shows that we've done before, lots of times we just watch all the same shows because maybe there's only like 4 or 5 to watch together. Rosamund had like 20 or 30 different, I don't know, there were so many that I basically said to my guests, just go pick a bunch and watch them, and then we'll come back and talk about them together. So it's going to be a little bit different than we did last time or we've done previously, but I want to start off, and I had us all, though, watch this one. I said, this one you have to watch. I don't know why. It was just, I think it's like the fact that Die Another Day was her first like big Hollywood role, as far as I'm aware of. So why don't we jump into that, and maybe I'll go to you, Marcel, first. Miranda Frost. Here's Rosamund Pike coming into Hollywood in this role as an MI6 agent and Bond girl. What did you pull out from her performance? Could you see anything there that you think, told you something about her capabilities as an actor?
I think from that film, you got like there was a lot of stuff going on. There was like just a sheer insanity going on. But whenever she showed up on the screen, she's kind of magnifying in a way. It says like, I think the first scene you see her in, it's just her, and there's been a bunch of stuff that happened because she doesn't show up until like, I don't know, like maybe after the first sort of big. Yeah. And she just shows up and like kind of steals the show, even though this guy that she's with like literally parasails or like parachutes down from a plane, and like you still like kind of see her as like the focal point or the kind of attention grabber, and she kind of stayed that way every time she was on the screen. Honestly, for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that you talked about it kind of. Yeah, she magnified that role a bit. I mean, and she did. Like I was much less interested in the person she was working for, at the time, whatever his name is, it was like that guy was much less interesting, even though he was more bombastic in that role.
Right.
I agree with you that she kind of stole those scenes that she was part of. Rebecca, was there something else that came from that when you saw it that you thought kind of she excelled in?
So the thing that I found interesting was I read that, well, first of all, like she hadn't even graduated from Oxford like yet when she's like filming this role, and she's like about to graduate. She's really young. But apparently the first scene that she filmed for that movie was opposite Judi Dench. And as you would imagine, being in her position, she's, young, she's still in college, and she has some experience, but like to just show up day one and have to act a scene with Judi Dench is intimidating. As she said it was, of course. And I thought that was her most interesting scene in the movie. Like, like M is asking her to like give her opinion on Bond. And so she has to sort of like give her analysis on who Bond is. And so I thought that was like probably her most like notable scene in the movie. And I mean, I think that's just kind of impressive in and of itself, just in a more meta sense of like, who she is. She's got to show up and do that. And that she is, professional even at that age. And then the other thing I think is just like, when you look at like overall, like Bond girls, you don't expect like great writing for those characters in most of the films. And certainly there wasn't in this one. But if you look at like, especially the women who have been Bond girls who were cast as unknowns, so they just starting out as a Bond girl, I think it's easy to look to her as one of, or like maybe the most like respected career, from someone who started as a Bond girl, not counting later on in some of the movies they cast big name actresses, people who are already established, but for someone who started off that way, she kind of set herself apart.
I agree. I mean, it was this first big role, and like you said, she didn't have like that much, but she was in a number of scenes here, and I think I saw someone in chat say like, well, yeah, she acted like she's an actor. Well, yes, there's a certain element to this where you would expect actors to be able to get onto the screen and act, but just from the perspective of viewers, it's not like we all don't feel like some of the actors maybe are less capable of embodying the roles that they're chosen for than others. So I like that you said what you've both said, which is just early on, she showed up and she was able to handle those roles in a high stress situation, like you said, with Judi Dench right there, perhaps. Yeah. What I noticed, and this is something I noticed in a lot of her roles that I watched, was just there's a certain calm that she's able to just portray. And again, maybe it's just natural for everyone to, but there's just a certain maturity and calmness, even when she was really young, through all of her roles that kind of at times, maybe with other movies we'll talk about here, maybe she plays it really well, and so it's a little bit creepy calm. There's I like that aspect of it. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, because there are some common features that she can really pull off very well, and that's definitely one.
Yeah, I agree. Now again, that was like a really early role. I didn't get a chance to watch this next one we're going to be discussing, which is Pride and Prejudice. And I believe you, Rebecca, you saw Pride and Prejudice. Was there something about this? I think this was probably, I want to say a year or two after
it was
Die Another Day.
2009, so 3 years later.
Okay. Was there anything that stood out to you that was different than what you had already seen in Die Another Day?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Pride and Prejudice was actually like the first movie that I had seen her in. And because I just watched Die Another Day so that we could talk about it for this, I'd never seen it. But that one was probably the first one I'd seen her in. But yeah, so something just, having now seen her in a bunch of things, I think is noteworthy. And I've seen other adaptations of Pride and Prejudice as well. So the character that she played, Jane, is, I think, she's kind of an idealized character. Like, she has all these like wonderful, virtuous qualities. She's intelligent, she's sweet and kind, and sees the best in everybody. And I think that that character can fall flat in other adaptations, but she definitely didn't. Like, this was, she was kind of a standout in a way that the character, I think, doesn't always stand out, but I think Rosamund did. And the thing, what you were talking about, Matt, about how she does like calm, there's this other thing I think she does where it's like, a lot of her characters can like have a lot of reserve, or like really layers where they don't show everything. And Jane is said to be a reserved character. Like, she's in love with Bingley, but other characters comment on how you wouldn't know that she's in love with Bingley. And Bingley is convinced that she doesn't love him pretty easily, because supposedly she like doesn't, wear her heart on her sleeve. And so there's that kind of like coolness or reserve to the character. And that's something that she does really well. But in this case, I think she actually like brought more warmth to the character. And I think that is something that kind of made her like a standout version of Jane from what I've seen.
Would you recommend, if there's fans watching this that have never seen Pride and Prejudice and would like to kind of see some of Rosamund's works that would be worthwhile, is Pride and Prejudice one of those where you would recommend it for her performance?
It's a really good adaptation. So, especially if you've read it, it's one of the better adaptations, especially considering it's a feature-length film, which is hard. I think probably the one that maybe, if there's one that's stronger, it's the BBC miniseries, because there's more of the book in there. But aside from that one, I think it's probably the strongest. She's definitely my favorite Jane.
Okay. That's favorite Jane. I like you bringing up the reserved and warmth. And Marcel, do you, just from all the stuff you did see her in, we'll jump to some specifics. This reserved, calm, warm or cold thing does seem kind of like she's able to carry that off really, really convincingly. Is that also something you've seen in other works that you've seen her in?
Yeah, actually, I'm kind of curious, Rebecca, when she has that reserve, because what I've seen her in these other films, it's like she has the reserve and she does that really well. This calm sort of, I'm in charge of my emotions, but I'm present this way. But she also kind of gives off that she's like subduing something within her. Is that kind of what you see in there? Because that's kind of what I see. You get the calm, but you get behind, almost like seeing in the eyes that she's reserving some emotion that you would expect someone to have in that situation.
The thing about Jane as a character is just that she's not trying to hide anything. Like, that's just who she is, and because she's very like honest kind of person. So it's different than some of her other roles where I think some of those layers are intentional, right? Like she's
Right.
purposely presenting herself a certain way, and then there's other stuff that she's not purposely showing underneath. So I don't think that with this character. I just think that there's some subtleties to it, where there's different aspects of who she is. Like I think that warmth and genuineness is like part of the character, and it's just that the reserve is just maybe her being kind of like modest, or just it's just another aspect of the character. To
me it seems like she uses that kind of like a touchstone in a lot of her roles, where she'll branch out depending on the role, but always kind of goes back to that sort of standard calm, reserved Rosamund.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just the roles that she ends up picking, or it's just the way that she embodies that each of those roles. Again, it's not like it's abnormal in human life to be reserved in some form or fashion, and to just be naturally capable of that. But yeah, there is just that's one thing, as I was watching a lot of the stuff she'd done, like that kept coming back to me. So by the way, if you're watching this for the first time, we're just talking about films that Rosamund Pike was part of over the last many years of her career, and basically kind of talking about what we thought stood out to us from her performances. If you're here for the first time, please do like this video so other fans can come join in the conversation. We'll be opening the call lines here in probably about 20 minutes and letting you call in and tell us what you think about things you've seen Rosamund in, and also talk to us a little bit about Moiraine and how you think that Rosamund will do in becoming Moiraine. So with that in mind, I want to jump to one that I know we've all watched now, which is Gone Girl. And this came out in 2014. I still remember I left that movie theater after seeing Gone Girl, and I wasn't okay for like 3 months. Like there was some like disquiet in me for it. My family laughs at me still. I actually want to go back and watch it again. I haven't watched it since then. But I do remember the performance. I do remember just how I felt after that. But instead of me explaining that, Marcel, when it comes to Gone Girl, other than necessarily this reserved reserved nature, what stood out to you about her performance in this one?
In this one, it was the range. I felt like, because when I went into this, I knew there was some buzz about the movie in terms of the actual story, but I only saw it when she was announced as Rosamund announced playing Moiraine.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
So I hadn't actually seen it before, so I went in kind of blind, and it just kind of it came out of nowhere, the performance, because they set it up as this that sort of calm, sort of like stoic in a way, like elegant sort of character that Rosamund plays a lot, but then it just devolves in a lot of ways into some like madness, almost a psychotic sort of character. But in between there, she plays like a whole, like she's playing like I think it was from like Louisiana. She's playing a character from that, and she just went into that. It came out of nowhere, but it like totally worked. And like with so many of her roles, she kind of just seems to eat the character up. Like you could tell that she is that character in those moments.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
It came off to me like because it's hard. I think it would be hard to pull it off, that sort of twist. I'm not I'm not like a huge movie buff, but it just seems like that sort of twist in this movie can be kind of hard to pull off, and she does a really good job at that.
Yeah, and for those of you that are watching, we're going to talk about spoilers in the books, talking about Moiraine, and in these movies, obviously. Like, we've already spoiled that she's a Bond girl. No, just kidding. Right. We're going to be talking about the movies, you know what I mean? Like, so if you don't want to hear anything about these movies, this probably isn't the episode for you, but just know, and especially this one, because, like you said, there's some twists and turns to this character. But I like what you said. Almost you're like, she became Amy Dunn. She in this one, it proved to you, it sounds like, she can eat up a role and embody what that role kind of requires from her. And so I thought that, that's a really good way to, for me, that's a really good kind of summary of just her acting capability. Rebecca, anything to add on top of that? Marcel started calm, went to the madness, really ate up the role. What else stuck out to you?
I mean, I think it's just when you watch her in this role, and if you haven't, you absolutely should. It's like she's playing multiple characters in one. And I think one of the things that's interesting is like, early in the film, it's like, well, who is Amy Dunn? Like, there's kind of a question about like who she is exactly. And I like that, you know, just as like, I mean, I was sort of spoiled on this movie before I saw it, which not completely, but like in general, which didn't bother me too much. But still, you can see that like the movie is sort of setting that up of like, she's enigmatic, you know, you don't know exactly who she is. And then as Marcel mentioned, at one point, she's like pretending to be somebody else. So like you see her playing that part. And then, you know, things unravel and you learn more. And so again, over the course of the whole movie, it's like she's playing multiple characters.
I like that. Like you were saying, she's enigmatic. That's a great word. Like her intentions are hidden and she's able to carry that off really well. This
and
is
overall, like just, I would describe the character as like, or just the performance, I should say. There's like, it's fascinating and it's horrifying.
Yeah, fascinating, horrifying is good. And that's a really good way to say it. I think, and this role, I think if I remember correctly, this is one of the first where she was the star, the lead in this role, and I think it's one of the first ones at least. And she really it's like she was born to be in like that role, right? She led in this way, like it was really part of it. Yeah, go ahead.
She had to beat out like I don't know how many other like big actresses who wanted that part.
Yeah, right. And I can't remember the quote, but David Fincher had said something about why he had picked her. But yes, I think he had looked and really wanted her to have this role, and really believed in her. And yeah, she proved out that she could do it. Yeah. It's kind of hard. It was one of those things. It's one of those roles where once an actor takes it on and just nails it, it's hard to imagine other actors. Not that they couldn't have, right? It's just it's that image in your head. And I think maybe I'm going to have a little bit of difficulty for myself, at least. Like that role will always be in my head as I see her in other roles. Like it's just there, right? I keep seeing that role, but that's just how well she did it, I think.
Right. I think that's how you know someone did such a great job with a role when you really can't imagine someone else doing it, because you're right. You know, of course somebody else could have done it, but like when someone really nails something, then you're like, no, that's that person. Yeah, absolutely. And now we don't necessarily go off for this role, but I do want to say Paul Stanley left a tip for us here, and Paul said there are actor films and movie star films. In a Bond movie, which is a movie star film, an actor like her leaps out at you. Yeah, that's a great comment. I think that's true. She stuck out in that film, and I would. Yeah, I like Paul's explanation here. I think that's really good. I'm kind of curious for those that are here with us in chat, if you are on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch, seeing this, we won't necessarily see your comments immediately here live, but if you want to leave us a comment here, come over and join us on YouTube. And I'm kind of curious for everyone in chat here, what is your favorite role that you've ever seen Rosamund Pike in? I've seen people mention Hostiles. That was a good one. I really like that one. We're not going to be talking about that one tonight, but she's done so many roles. I'm kind of curious if what you have seen and what you've loved so far. I'm guessing we're going to see some I Care Lots show up in this. Marcel, any other comments about her role in Gone Girl?
I think one thing I would say is in Gone Girl, the character the other actress that she plays off of, because I think this is another theme too. She kind of elevates a lot of the characters she plays off of. And I can't remember the guy's name, but he played, not Ben Affleck, because she plays. They have a great chemistry.
Yeah.
And especially in the early parts, but I think once it kind of builds, the story builds, it makes a lot more sense too. But God, the guy who played like Doogie Howser, he was
Neil
like,
Patrick.
You can just
Patrick
say
Harris.
You can just say Doogie Howser. It's fine. Neil Patrick Harris, right?
I don't know, like the scene, like I don't know if I was gonna buy him in that role, because it's a weird role for him, I think, at least from what I've ever seen him in, and I feel like she kind of pulled him up, a little bit.
Yeah, those scenes were.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Elevates her co-stars. That's an interesting observation, and I definitely think that movie proved that out. Not that other ones haven't. I just know that one better than others. So
I noticed something
go ahead.
similar in some of the other movies too. So that's a good call out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Let's jump back. This one I think was maybe it was earlier. Did Barney's version come out before this one?
It did. It was 2010.
Okay. 2010. Okay. I think, Marcel, did you end up seeing Barney's version, or is it just Rebecca that saw that one?
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't see that one.
So Rebecca, on Barney's version, she plays Miriam Grant Panofsky. Do you want to give people do you know anything about that film, and then you can kind of tell them what it's about?
This was one I just kind of like pulled out of her list. I was like, all right, I just want to watch some different things, and this was one I just pulled out to watch for this. So just like, I don't expect a lot of people to have seen this movie. I hadn't heard of it, but it stars Paul Giamatti too. So a little bit about it. I mean, it's basically, the movie is centered around Paul Giamatti's character, Barney. And it's sort of, it's not linear, so like it kind of like jumps around in his life a little bit. And it is over the course of a few decades. And Rosamund Pike plays his third wife, Miriam, who is the love of his life, and vice versa. And so there's a couple interesting things that I found about this one. I mean, it was interesting to watch her play a character at different ages because it does take place over several decades. So that was interesting. And then, okay, so he's the central character, and she's like the next most important character, but it's his movie. And he's a character who is deeply flawed. Like, he's hard to love in some ways. But Rosamund was able to like sell me on the idea that like she loved him, and that she, that they had this, a life that was beautiful in spite of, some things that didn't end well. But she sort of sells us on that. And I think that played such an important like part in the movie, in basically, in order for us to like care about him, care about the story, care about the character, we kind of needed her. We kind of needed her to be like, okay, she loves him. She's found, something real with him. And so I think that's what she really kind of like pulled off. That was really interesting. So that was like kind of like going to what you said before, Marcel, about how she kind of, it's not that she's elevating Paul Giamatti as an actor, because he's a good actor. But it's just that, that's her job. And it's a harder job, I think, as an actor in a movie it's not about you, but you have to like play this role where you're making it work for that main character. Yeah. And that's hard, I think, to do.
There's an interesting difference, and when we get to I Care a Lot, but there's a way that still works, but it kind of flips it on its head, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's make our way there. Would you recommend Barney's version then to fans that are watching right now? Is that a movie they should check out if they want to?
I mean, if it's like a genre that interests you, I mean, I think somewhat like I just kind of wanted to see something different. Like, I thought it was just from the description of it, it seemed like a different kind of movie than some of the other things that I'd seen her in. So that was why I picked it. I mean, I enjoyed it. Like I said, it's it's sort of like it's not really a biopic, but like, you're jumping around in someone's life, and he had kind of an interesting life, and right. But the main character is a little bit like, he's one of these, he's not really an anti-hero, but like, just one of these deeply flawed characters, when that person is central. And so, if that interests you, then it was good. I liked it.
Okay, yeah. So maybe check out Barney's version. Let's jump to Radioactive. These will be our last two. We're going to talk about Radioactive and I Care a Lot. We're going to open the phone lines and start talking about what makes Moiraine, and what are the attributes we would pull out from her character. I'm seeing by the way, a lot of people mention Doom. I feel like I've probably seen Doom. I don't remember that she was in Doom, so apparently she's in Doom, and now I gotta check it out because people are saying they liked her performance in Doom. Okay,
like the video game movie.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
The Rock. Okay, I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, I need to go check that out. Okay, so Radioactive, Marcel. This one was just recently, right? It was like 2009, or was it even earlier than that? Was it 19?
I think it's 2019. Yeah.
So, what were your thoughts on her performance in portraying Marie Curie?
I think this was a weird movie. I think because I came away with it from it kind of really liking it, but I really had some problems with the story. But her portrayal of Marie Curie is a phenomenal. In some ways, I wish that she would have had a better movie to play her in. But this is apparently it just took some weird sort of thematic sort of direction in this movie where it's like there's a lot of time skipping that happens that they start at the end, then they go to the past to tell the main bulk of the story, but in the middle they're like jumping to the future, and it just kind of jarred me a bit. And I don't know that it was the movie was served well, but I think one of the best, because this movie doesn't really focus on what I think actually makes Marie Curie kind of phenomenal, right? Her being able to get two Nobel Peace Prizes. I think she was the first woman to ever receive one. They kind of go into it. Obviously, they show the parts where her and Pierre, her husband, are actually this is part of it. I think it's worth watching. So I think there's some thematic choices that I don't agree with, but there's parts of it that really drew me in. And I think largely it was Rosamund's performance, because it's just phenomenal. She's just such a courageous actor, and in the face of a profession where it's completely male driven as a woman, and kind of blowing them out of the water in early 1900s France. I think that aspect to it, she just really brought that energy, and I think she picked up a lot of the slack that I think maybe the script and maybe some of the direction had in it.
Okay, and so when you then takeaways as far as what her capability there was, basically making something out of maybe something that wasn't there. Okay, yeah, I can see that.
There's also her kind of playing off Pierre, who's I forgot, man, I think I forgot the guy's name who plays that character, but Pierre Curie, and they just have such a great relationship, and it's more actually like a partnership. So I think that kind of gives us a little insight into, maybe, we're not going into how the aspects with Wheel of Time, but I think that dynamic of partnership and how they are playing off each other throughout the movie, and the importance that, even though it's mostly focusing on her, right, the importance of him, I think it's another big element that I think we can pull from.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely have to talk about that one. I want to bring that back up here shortly. Rebecca, for you, Radioactive, was there something else here that you would add on kind of what Marcel said?
So I think Marcel's right that her performance is just really powerful. And I think in some ways, I think the movie is kind of like a vehicle for her performance. So, I mean, I kind of hear what you're saying. Biopics are tough. It's tough to get the right narrative in a biopic. But it is sort of a vehicle for her performance, which is really fantastic. She was just so dynamic in that role. She's like a force, and her drive, she plays Marie Curie as just passionate, driven, she has a focus that she will not be deterred from. And she is willing to make other things secondary to that.
Right.
Yeah. And she, there was I don't know if it's a quiet, well, at least the beginning, quiet stubbornness. And I don't know if stubbornness is the right word for that, but she was just, maybe it was more fierce than it was stubborn. I just remember that initial moment where she's just like, it's my research.
Yeah.
It will not be taken from me. And not beyond just this idea of she was fighting for, what she wanted, but I think she did that really well. There was but it was almost quiet, and it's just this is mine, and no, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to, change the world, basically.
I think Rosamund, in an interview about the movie and about Marie Curie, said that she lived, I think she said it as she lived equality. She didn't necessarily fight for it, but she didn't, whenever she did, she just, I am equal to you. So I will make these demands.
You just wouldn't accept, some of the things that, people wanted to were used to getting away with, and she just wouldn't accept it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And she played that really well. Again, I think she, a role that she owned really well, and she became that embodiment. Now, I don't know Marie Curie well enough to know, it's not like I've read and studied her, but I really enjoyed the performance. Now, our last one here before we open the call lines and before we get people's opinions about Rosamund Pike and her career and how excited they are, before we watch the table read, I think I have that here, and we'll definitely put that on for everybody again, just so we can see that moment. I care a lot. We have to bring up I care a lot. It was obviously she won the Golden Globe for this. People were talking about how much they loved this performance. I wanted to see it, but I hadn't until for tonight, kind of prepping to see this role. But let me go to you, Rebecca, first on this one. I care a lot. What did you take away from this role? I mean, this is her latest performance. What can we learn about her capabilities as an actor from I care a lot?
I love this so much. So in a weird way, there were some aspects of this that just spoke to me as a performance, more than, because I'm looking to see, can she embody Moiraine, and this one spoke to me so much for that, even though the characters are very different. But this character, I feel this is probably the most cold-blooded character that I've seen her play. Right. But when she's playing this part, she believes in herself. The character believes in herself. Rosamund seems to believe in the character as she's portraying it. So yeah, that kind of, it has an effect on the audience. You kind of believe in her because she believes in herself. One fascinating thing about this movie is I kept thinking that this character's refusal to give in, refusal to cut her losses at any point. I kept thinking this is what's going to be her undoing. And I mean, without saying it wasn't that, that was not so I thought that was just, that's the thing that she just kind of keeps going, right? She will not give in. She's
lioness.
Pure determination. But then the other thing that I thought was noteworthy is that all of that makes the character sound very inhuman. But there is a moment where so she has someone, she's her lover, and her partner. And there's a moment where we see that she would not follow through. She's willing to not follow through on a plan that she has if the woman that she loves is not also on board. So I think that is an important moment that that aspect kind of came through, that there is something, more to this character. But anyway, I don't know. I love the performance. I love the movie. It was so good.
Yeah. It was, there's a scene where the lawyer, I think it was Dean or something, I don't know, he shows up for the first time at her office, and there was just a certain light in her eyes, that whole, he was challenging her, and she was just almost excited about the challenge, and she was really communicating that really well, because I was sitting there going yep, I would have broken right here. And obviously she's acting the part, but she's just displaying just almost a glee for being challenged this way. And that's something I want to bring up when we actually start talking about Moiraine, for sure. So to you, Marcel, was there something else that kind of stuck out other than this refusal to give in, this just determination? What else did you see out of this performance?
I think again with this movie, I think I hate to get nitpicky, but I do this in movies. But there's some plot holes in this one that that stick out to me, and particularly because it's Tyrion, right? We got Tyrion versus Moiraine. If that was
Tyrion
ever happened,
versus Moiraine,
right?
Love it. But at the end of the day, there's I don't know, yeah, like you said, at points I'm almost rooting for Peter Dinklage's character in this movie, but and I almost feel I don't know if the movie wants me to or not, but then again, just sheer by the force of her portrayal and determination, and just at every turn she's just no, I'm not giving in. It makes sense every step along the way. It's just go out without doing this like very dangerous thing. And she just every time just goes straight in with no fear, and it's just like a singular sort of goal in her head. And I think that's what drives her. I mean, unfortunately, it's just money. She wants way more money and power. But there's that singular focus she has, and she just heads straight on, and kind of brings you around for her.
But she has
yeah.
I love the Tyrion versus Moiraine. Oh my gosh, this is such that's a funny way. And yes, it's hard not to like connect that as fans who like that's what we saw going on here. Well, I like what you all came up with. Thank you for kind of hopefully it was enjoyable as you kind of went through and watched these. Again, this is kind of part of the fun of getting to know the actors and their work a little bit better. And I think she's been so kind of more public than obviously the others, from the show. She's been talking about it a lot more, and just really appreciate everything she's been saying, which is, that she's really looking. I mean, I think she talked about this in an interview for her Radioactive, where she just talked about like there was something about Moiraine that she had to like she had to be part of this, and I love that. Regardless of that, she was what that opinion is for her as a person, but like to hear that someone really read this role and really, really had to play that role. I hope that she took that much time and effort to really own this role. I can't imagine she didn't from everything we just watched. I care a lot, a Radioactive Gone Girl, for goodness sake. So yeah, from just a capability standpoint, I'm looking forward to what I've seen so far. So I want to remind everybody, this is a live call-in talk show. If you've disagreed with something that we've said, I'm going to throw a spoiler banner up just because we'll probably talk about the books here shortly. But if you want to give us a call and tell us, other things you've seen Rosamund in that you've liked, or you want to add any attributes that you think we've missed about her capabilities from these roles, please feel free to do that. But I want to switch gears a little bit. Moiraine. What do we think of are the core attributes to this character? And I want to ask that same question to chat. What are the core things that an actor needs to carry to get this character right? Who is Moiraine? And so maybe let me go to you, Marcel, first. Like, what attribute stands out to you most about her as a character that you've read?
How much into spoilers can we go?
You can go as far as you want. This is spoilers.
Okay.
I'm just going to tell everybody right now. If you've watched this and we've done no book spoilers at this point, we're going to go, let's just say, to the end of the books. So If you're watching this now, hopefully you didn't skip ahead of this moment. But there's the banners up. The show is going to contain all the book spoilers all the way to the end. Look, it's a red banner. That should have warned you. So they've had plenty of time to walk away after this moment. So go ahead and use whatever you're going to use.
All right, so basically, I think, and I'm going to look at it from the first season, from what we would assume the first season to be, at least in most part, is especially after rereads, we go back to see Moiraine, and and I think also she's like a top 5 character ever. I don't think she's my favorite in the series necessarily, but I think she's just such a great character in the way Robert Jordan has her in this, and you never really get much from her POV. But in terms of what I would expect to see in the series, or who she is, really is just someone who has that focus. She's working her whole life to find Dragon Reborn, and she's gotten to this point where she's found probably out of these three little boys, one of these dudes is the guy, probably the tall Aiel dude. And he, and like, knowing, especially knowing what afterwards, after, knowing that, she has so much importance to the series and to these characters from Emmett Field. And, she just has to, I don't know, deal with a lot, having all this knowledge, knowing that like she could carry this thing across the finish line, but these guys from Emmett Field don't trust her at all. And I think she's going to have to essentially, be someone, who is very confident and strong, and kind of have to deal with that frustration of knowing so much more, but having to deal with people who don't trust her, even though she's literally been working her whole life to do this one thing. And I think, that's Moiraine. Like she's driven completely to do this one thing.
I love that. Well, and you brought up one attribute that I don't really think about that often, which is not only just driven, but capable of carrying a lot. And I don't know what that word is. There's a better word for it than capable of carrying a lot. But she's dealing with so many, think of all the intrigue from the White Tower and her relationship with Swan and this, that she's had to kind of keep these secrets for so long. And she's had to make her way. She has an entire network of eyes and ears, right, that are kind of working with her. She had to establish that, and she has to maintain it. And not only that, she has to go out and do the searching of her own and avoid being probably killed. I don't know how many times, right. So I don't know what you'd call that, but just and multitasker doesn't make any sense. That's not what I'm trying to say, but it's capable doesn't even do it justice. So I'm not sure what the word is, but there's that. I love that you brought that up. Rebecca, what else stands out to you about Moiraine?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, I absolutely agree about like the drive, the focus, the mission, that she doesn't give up on that. I think is crucial. She is enigmatic as well, right? Like there's the cool reserve that she is so masterful at, and then there's the question of what's underneath that. And I think it is important that other characters and perhaps the audience question what, at least at first, what is her intention. We kind of know what she's about, but like really knowing why and like what's her part in it, like what does she want out of it for, and so that being somewhat of a mystery, I think, is important. And then I just think, more internally, and I talked about this in my Moiraine video, is like there's this tension in her between, she has all this training and upbringing that pull her towards secrecy and control, and that is at odds with some of who she is underneath and some of what she needs to access in order to really do what she's trying to accomplish, right? She's trying to protect Rand, and in order to do that, he has to trust her. And so that the stuff underneath, that allows her to connect to other characters, that she keeps well hidden. There's that tension between those two sides of her. Yeah. I think finding, a balance between them is kind of part of the journey of her character.
Yeah. Enigmatic, the training aspect you talked about, like towards secrecy and control, and that almost works against her sometimes, to gain the trust of those that she's trying to, when you think about her relationship with Rand, for example, there's always a tension there, right? I don't think it really ever goes away. Even I would say up to the very end, there's still something there. Now, maybe at the very end, but there is a tension, and but she needed it. She couldn't have done it. You know what I mean? Like that's the way that she was going to be able to survive everything she was attempting to do. The word that we talked about, carrying, a lot. People came up with perseverance. Yeah, I think perseverance, grit, and passion. Yeah, go along really well with that. So. I love everything you got. It's really interesting when you start putting together this like an attribute list of these characters and what we love about them, because it gets really ridiculously long, and you're like, oh my gosh, can anyone bring this? Like they brought up tenacity, right? Trustworthiness, right? The truth of as far as she sees it. She's relentless, resolve, strength, nobility, grace, certitude. There's all these other things. You're like, yeah, she's a lot of things. Jordan did that a lot. He almost he created these characters that were just, almost unbelievable in all the things that they were capable of doing. And I think she's one of those individuals. You're just like, how do you pull all this off? So, and maybe before we started talking about attributes, I was thinking like, this is an easy character to pull off. I don't know why I was thinking that. And then we started talking about it. I was like, this is not as easy as I would have imagined. Marcel, does anything else kind of come up to you from stuff you've maybe seen in chat so far, or just things that have come up since Rebecca kind of gave us some of her ideas. Anything else we're missing about Moiraine?
I don't know. I think the secrecy part kind of stuck out to me, just because it's one of those things where I think when I read this series for the first time, I was kind of, especially with Rand's POV most of the time, I got it. I was like, I understand. Like, why is she telling him what he needs to know? Like, why is she being so secretive? And then you kind of realize that she had to be. Like you said, there was really no other way that she could just trust these guys. She had to kind of keep them at arm's length, but give them just enough, and be that sort of that reserved sort of character in just that. I'm sure the frustration of having to work that balance, because you want them to trust you, but you don't trust them, and you need to not trust them, because one guy's going to pick up a corrupted dagger at some point, and you have to deal with that. So I don't know. It's definitely a tricky balance within herself.
Well, and partly she's trying to teach them how to deal with Aes Sedai, right? That she's saying, like, guess what? Yeah, they're mysterious. They're going to try to keep their secrets. They're going to try to maybe manipulate you. Like, and here's your first experience with me. And she had to kind of run this strange line between, like, teaching them important lessons about their interactions with Aes Sedai, while also trying to gain their trust enough that they would follow her. And early on in that first journey, there's a lot of disturbance. In fact, isn't it? I want to say. I think this is the video. Let's play I think this is the table read. If it's not, oh well, then we don't have it. But one of the lines comes up in the table read where they're like, how can we trust her? I think they talk about that. So let me see if this is the right video.
So, The Wheel of Time, Season 1, Episode 1.
You go back, you give them a way to follow us. I can't allow that. Crossing that river would be foolish, and you are not a fool.
Come on, do you really think she's any better than what's chasing us?
Of course I do.
Till then, though, the lady does shoot fireballs, so let's try and stay on her good side, eh?
And off this, we smash to black at the end of the episode.
Yeah, so it's a fun one, and Matt makes that quip about the fireball, like basically like, yeah, I trust that lady. She, she's got fireballs, and I think it's a funny quip, but it is that I think it's emblematic of that question of how can we trust this person, right. and should we trust her? And it sounds like, at least from a script perspective, that they've got that part right so far. I can't wait to actually see her in that role, just not at the table read. That's going to be a lot of fun. Well, we have 4 callers waiting for us. We're an hour in. Hopefully you're here and you've been enjoying this conversation. Hopefully you've been inspired to go watch something. If you haven't ever seen Gone Girl, it's intense, but it'll convince you if you are concerned about Rosamund's acting chops. Just amazing job on that one. But please do like this video if you're here. Please do subscribe. I just saw a bunch of subscribers come in. Thank you. Welcome here to the Dusty Wheel. And with that being said, let's bring our first caller, who many of you know really well, to the show. One of my favorite here, Norm. Welcome to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing tonight?
Great, Innkeeper. As always, I raise my mug to you. And to our awesome guests, I raise my mug to you. And of course, everyone in chat, what's up?
Oh my gosh, that's become a staple here at the Dusty Wheel. I appreciate that you keep that up every time you call in, Norm. If you ever called in and you didn't say that, I'd be really disappointed, I think, at some point. So what's your thoughts here? Is it about Rosamund? Is it about Moiraine, or about them both?
Well, one thing that has not been mentioned about Moiraine, the character, is she has to play mom. She's a very motherly character, and I want everyone out there who can think of their mom, and you, Matt, you can think of, being a parent. You have 3 teenagers, 4 if you count Elaine running out into the world for the. Sorry, not Elaine. Sorry, Egwene.
Egwene.
But running out into the world, for the very first time. Eventually, one of those boys are going to be the Dragon Reborn and have more power than they could possibly imagine. They can possibly blow up the world. And here you are trying to, herd a bunch of cats. So, that in itself, those people out in the world who have raised teenagers, and not that I was ever a bad teenager growing up. So shout out to my mom. You gotta play it close to the hilt, and I think that's also part of Moiraine's character. I mean, as you guys hit it, saying secretive and stuff. I mean, I was waiting for the line for when either Matt or Rand would say something to her, why we got to do this, and for her to just say, because I said so. I was just waiting for that line to pop up, and because it would have been perfect. And because that to me, that is Moiraine. And then when she eventually loosens the reins and says, okay, Rand, we'll let you do what you're going to do. For me, I thought that's when Moiraine grew as a character, because she finally said, all right, I'm going to let you do what you got to do. And I'm not going to play mother hen anymore, because you got to remember, Rand never had a mom, really. And so here's his first foray into basically having a mom for about 2-3 months, and having her tell him, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. And he's like, dude, wait, no. And then put on top of that, she's an Aes Sedai? Oh, hell no. It's like, dude, I get to do what I want. I'm Rand. I love my dad and blah, 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 woo, woo, woo. And so I love this. I want to see that aspect of Moiraine going. So
I appreciate that comment. Let me go to Rebecca here. Do you think that, as Norm convinced you, that Moiraine has mom vibes, or is this really an aunt vibe situation, or none of the above?
Yeah, I think it is more maybe like aunt vibes, because these are kids that have just been like thrust on her all of a sudden. So like a mom would maybe be more like used to dealing with these shenanigans. I see where he's coming from, but I do think aunt is maybe a little bit more accurate, because she's not been used to dealing with these troublesome teenagers, but now all of a sudden she's got to deal with them.
Yeah, I like hashtag mom rain. I can't even say it. Mom rain. Okay, how about you, Marcel? Are you did Norm convince you? Is this like surrogate mother situation going on here when she now has 4 teenagers?
I think it's more like the parents or the mom went out of town and left like her best friend in charge.
The best friend vibes.
Kids.
Mom's best friend vibes. I love that idea. That's a really funny way to put it. No, I think you're right, Norm, in the sense of there's an aspect here where she is not ready for this. This is probably, when I say not ready, this is never something she'd ever experienced. Teenagers, which is, you can't necessarily be ready for that as your first experience of trying to keep them safe and teach them and mentor them and whatever you're trying to do. So I do like the idea of bringing in a little mom vibe, if you will. Although I did see this, and I have to agree, Nynaeve has mom vibes. so I feel like if Nynaeve, when Nynaeve is there, I feel like that it is like a mom aunt vibe thing going on here. I can go with that. Norm, what do you think? Is Nynaeve the mom here, or are you still kind of on? You feel like Moiraine is really the surrogate mother here?
I've always pictured Nynaeve as the overbearing sister. Okay. The know-it-all sister who's been there, done that. So that's what I've always pictured Nynaeve as. So
okay,
but I'm the oldest, so I don't know.
You're the oldest, so yeah, exactly. What were you saying, Rebecca?
I think Nynaeve is the mom of the friend group. You know how if you have a friend group,
she's the mom of the friend group. I like it.
One person is like the one who kind of like mothers other people. I think that's Nynaeve. She's
the mothering friend. Yeah. Well, hey, Norm, as always, awesome to hear from you. Appreciate you sharing that with us. And favorite Rosamund Pike movie you've ever seen before we let you go?
It's a tie between Die Another Day and the Thunderbirds.
Okay. Die Another Day and Thunderbirds. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.
You guys take care.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay, we have 3 more callers. Let's bring them in. That was a lot of fun. I love talking about mom vibes. That was great. Was not expecting that one. Thanks, Norm. Okay, let's welcome Dave to the Dusty Wheel. Dave, how you doing?
Guys, how's it going today?
That's awesome. We're
Absolutely
back on the
excellent
Wednesday.
panel as always.
Well,
Absolutely. I got home from work late. I missed the mug giveaway, so I live in mug envy as usual. But
so what's going on? What were your thoughts about Rosamund and Moiraine?
So, okay, I have to admit, when I'm thinking of Moiraine, and I love Rosamund Pike, I think, and the word we were looking for, I think, before earlier in the show, describing Moiraine was dynamic.
Yeah,
Dynamic. She is a dynamic character. But and Rosamund Pike is a phenomenal actress, but I was not thinking of a 5'9" statuesque blonde for a Caribbean woman
Sure.
who is diminutive in stature. I was thinking more of Salma Hayek-ish. But, olive complexion, small. All right. Anyway.
Yeah.
I care a lot. I care a lot. I think is a really fantastic role for her, number one, which she nailed. Yeah. And I think an aspect of that movie, which will transfer over to Wheel of Time, especially in season 1, is the physicality of that role. She did a lot of work in that movie. And I think that will transform her into Moiraine as a much more believable character. Through all the running in Shatter Logoth and horseback riding and everything else that went on, I think that's going to, that will transfer well for Rosamund Pike. I really do. But I couldn't ask for a better actress.
Well, I like that. Well, exactly. Yeah. From a capability standpoint, I like that you brought up the physicality. We haven't really talked about that much, but there certainly is a physical nature to this role. And so I like that you feel like you've kind of identified that she definitely can pull that aspect off. I mean, definitely seen it in other roles, but I like that you brought that up to the table here. And I did want to ask maybe Marcel about this, the height thing. I know this kind of came up with fans initially when she was cast. Do you think that the 5'9" aspect or whatever it is, the height difference here from maybe the character in the book versus Rosamund, takes away from Moiraine as a character? In other words, do you think it was important in a way that you hope to see, I guess, on screen?
I think, for me at least anyway, I felt that her being short in the books kind of played to the big shadow she kind of cast. And she had this big aura that I think kind of played off the fact that she was short in the book. So I don't know that it'll be a big deal in the show. I think she'll do a great job kind of portraying that sort of grandiose sort of mystery and like this huge like legacy almost. I think she'll be able to show that, and I don't think it'll matter.
Yeah, like in the end, it's one of those where I know where people are coming from, that whole like short but has a big personality kind of feel to it. I feel like for the show itself, and especially for the viewers that have never read the books, they're never even going to, you know what I mean? It's not going to be relevant to
absolutely
95% of the viewers themselves, you know what I mean? And
sure.
even then, I think she can still accomplish that same feel in the world, which is still have a big impression regardless of her height, if you will. But yeah, I know that was a reaction. Rebecca, did you react that way initially, or did you have that thought and then... or no? I'm seeing you shaking head no.
Like I knew that some people were reacting that way, so I was sort of like reacting to other people's reactions of it. But the thing I think about it is like, okay, look at all the things that they have in Rosamund, right? They have someone who has a name and might be a draw, to an audience. You have someone who is incredibly skilled and seems to be passionate about the role, like she's taking on a producer role as well. I think she chooses her roles very carefully, from looking at her whole career history. You have all of those things, should they have said, well, we want to get all those things, but we also need this person to be short?
Right.
It's not important, I don't think.
Yeah, no, in the end, yeah.
You shouldn't try to hold out for that. It's you look at what you have and just be thankful that you have all those wonderful things in this person.
Yeah, for sure. Hey,
absolutely agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dave, I appreciate you sharing that thought and for calling in, man. Really appreciate you being a viewer here at the Dusty Wheel. And we'll talk to you soon again, okay?
You got it, brother. Thanks, guys.
Yep, thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah, and I think just like Dave was saying, I think most fans are just like, you noticed it, and then you were like, oh, well, yeah, whatever. we have Rosamund Pike playing Moiraine.
They could always shoot it in a way where she doesn't necessarily look as tall as she is. So,
Yeah. And then someone was saying that on screen, like, it's just, it's not one of those things that on screen you're going to notice.
It doesn't show up on screen in the same way as, like, you're envisioning it, right? And they mess with those things all the time. And, I think it was like a nice concept as part of the book, but it's ultimately
look at Jon Snow.
Yeah, Well, I want to point out something. All the attributes we picked out have nothing to do with their height. Focused, determined, enigmatic, perseverant, grit, passion, self-sacrificing tenacity, trustworthy, relentless, truth, resolve, strong, noble, graceful, mysterious, and mom. But no one brought up like, short but powerful or something. Like no one cared. And so I think that speaks to what we were talking about here, which is when we actually pulled out the attributes, it's irrelevant to her height. So let me bring in our second to last caller, another friend of the show here, Master of the Deck. Welcome to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing tonight?
I'm fantastic. And thank you all for your lovely insights on Rosamund so far.
Yeah, it's been fun. I can't believe the night's almost over. I feel like it just started. So what are your thoughts about Rosamund and or Moiraine?
Well, I was wondering, as, our resident innkeeper and Dusty Wheel sleuth, did you remember that Rafe Judkins did a Q&A about Moiraine on Twitter in July of 2019?
I did not. So, yes. Now tell us.
Well, the only reason I remember that happened is because one of my questions was one of the ones that Rafe chose to answer.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so just my little claim to fame right there. And I think this might have been before I was even the master of the deck on Twitter. This was early in my Wheel of Time fandom days. And I wanted to know, I think my question was, in his talks with Rosamund Pike, what was the clincher that said, yes, this is Moiraine? And forgive me while I go on to speaker for a second here to read it.
Yeah, no worries.
But he said that there were two things. And the first was that the moment I heard her voice on the other side of the phone, and it truly felt like Moiraine's voice, almost instantaneously. So I liked that you guys brought up that she has done voice acting, which I had forgotten about. Because I'm a terrible person and I haven't really watched much of her things, with the exception of Doom, because, that was sort of collateral damage in my Carl Urban obsession. But the second thing that he responded to, which I thought was really interesting, especially what you've said, was that the second was after she spoke about Moiraine's mission and what it meant to her as a character, how it affected Moiraine's life and how she sees those who she cares about. It was 100% clear that she deeply understood Moiraine and the forces that drive her.
Yeah.
So it's like Rosamund Pike has done this episode of the Dusty Wheel before we even got there. She had known what it would mean to become Moiraine when she went after the role. And that answer, among some of the other ones that Rafe gave early on, because not much of a movie watcher, I was like, okay, I'll take it on faith. Everything else is game. We got that picture of her reading The Eye of the World, and then we get this answer that made it, to me at least, evident that she really did know what she was getting into with Moiraine Damodred.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point here, which is perhaps our discussion is somewhat redundant to the fact that she did want to be part of the show and she wanted this character, So the fact is, we're taking it from the viewer standpoint, and she was taking it from the actor standpoint, which is, I want to become Moiraine. And that is exciting to think that we had somebody that was really motivated to fill the role, not just like they wanted, it sounded interesting. It was, no, she wanted to be part of this. Isn't she an executive producer of the show also, or something like that?
I think she's an executive producer, but she's a producer.
She's a producer. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think we've heard with Moiraine, with Rosamund, I should say, one of the things that makes me really excited about her being part of the show is just who Rosamund is and what is important to her. It's almost like we do have a Moiraine as part of this cast. I think in an interview, Rosamund Pike had mentioned that she helped one of her castmates get paid what she was worth because she wasn't being paid enough. Yeah. And she said, no, that's not acceptable. So having someone like Rosamund here to, look out for her colleagues, to kind of be Mom Rain with them, it just makes me feel really good about it, because we are looking at a rather young cast, maybe some people that are vulnerable. And it makes me feel good that we're not going to be looking at a situation, not that Rafe would ever, but we're not looking at a situation like some of the exploitation and the bad behavior that happened on the Game of Thrones set with Weiss and Benioff.
Yeah. I like that you that maybe we all didn't agree that she was Mom Rain, as in the character Moiraine, but that Rosamund Pike outside of the show is embodying Mom Rain. I can't even say it. It's like Mom Rain. It's like two different words. But I like that you've connected that. Yeah, I get that feeling a lot from what she said. And she mentioned something. I don't have the exact quote with me, but it was something along the lines of the way that they've cast the Wheel of Time, like, will prevent them from ever going back. Like, you can't undo what the Wheel of Time is doing, which is showing everyone that you can have this really diverse cast. And she's like, this will change. This is going to change it forever. And a lot of the cast members have talked about, like, this is like such an interesting experience for them in that same way, which is like, yeah, like they've never seen a cast that's diverse and been part of it. So I love that not only is the Wheel of Time getting made, but that it's also kind of hopefully causing some waves in how this is working in Hollywood. So yeah, I love that. Mom Rain. Mom Rain. I appreciate it, Mash of the Deck. Thank you very much. And congratulations on that tweet that Rafe replied to you on. That's awesome.
Yep, 3 years ago. We got this.
It's passed so quickly. It's crazy.
Or 2. I can do math.
Hopefully we'll talk to you later. See you.
All right, I'll catch you later. Thanks, guys.
Yep, bye-bye. Yeah, any thoughts there about what Mash of the Deck said, Marcel?
Yeah, I think I'm not great on Instagram, but I did see, maybe it was on Twitter actually, where they had interactions. I think when Yosha went home and she was asking for him to come back to Prague to finish filming or something like that. But I think to Master Deck's point, I think, and I'm gonna go out on a limb, I think she will be great at Moiraine, and I think whatever we get from the show, I think we'll get a great portrayal of Moiraine. And I think, like we were saying with some of the other movies, I think she'll bring up the other characters around her. And partly that's why I'm so excited for, particularly like that first episode, because all these really kind of newcomers in the image field characters, right? With this strong, great actress. I think, given what we've seen from her other stuff, I think she's gonna elevate. I just can't see it being so bad, so that's what I'm super excited for. I think she's particularly going to do great.
She's the Judi Dench now.
Yeah, exactly. Full circle.
By the way, I love that Sarab said Ma-Rain with an M-A-H. Like that's a better one than having to say Mom Rain. Ma-Rain. I like it. There's so many different. I've said Moiraine, Moiraine, and now I like Ma-Rain. Ma-Rain is that's a good one. Okay, any final comments on Master of the Decks? What she had to say?
I forget who said it exactly, but this I think is exactly right. The fact that she wants to do that part says so much, because again, I could just get the sense that she chooses her roles very carefully and has done even from the beginning of her career. But even at this point, like, she's not in a position where she's like, well, I just want a job, you know, like, she can really like set her own, you know, I'm not saying she can have anything she wants, but like, she has more choices as an actress. And so she's not just saying, hey, this would be a good job. It's like, no, this is a project that I want. This is a character that I want. And I think she's shown good judgment. So
yeah, well, clearly you joined the Wheel of Time. That's great judgment.
Obviously,
obviously.
But I mean, I think she read scripts and said, hey, this is a good script. This is a script I want to do, you know.
Okay, so I want to bring this last caller in. Then I want to go back to you both, talk about what we think we've seen in both characters, and then say goodnight to everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Please do like this video while you're here. And I think I've noticed a bunch of people subscribe today. That's awesome. I appreciate the support here at the Dusty Wheel. Let's bring Art now into the show. Art, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing tonight?
Hey. Hi, guys. Hello.
Thanks for being our last caller tonight. So, yeah, this is you're on the spot here. So, what do you have to say? Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Well, Moiraine, iconic. That's just, you know, she's on the cover of the first book, and some of those striking figures that you'll see on that cover, and it makes you want to open the book. But Moiraine, okay, so I was talking to the lovely lady Innkeeper, and she said, "What do you want to talk about?" I said, "Well, I honestly have the looniest theory." Do we have spoilers up?
Yeah, we have spoilers up. So if you're here, this isn't a spoil the books. Okay. I don't know how far Art's going, but if you're still here, spoilers, everyone.
But I was one of the small but ardent group of people back in the day on the message boards who supported the theory that Moiraine kills Asmodean. Okay, so I held on to that with such conviction and with such faith. And that really reminds me of the character Moiraine herself. Like, she's given this impossible task, and she's got such conviction and faith, just based off the barest, thinnest, you know, little things. You know, like some psychic lady tells her, "All right, devote your entire life to finding the Dragon Reborn, and here's nothing. I'm giving you no resources. It's just yourself. So you have to do the impossible. So everything you do from now on is literally impossible, but you're going to have to figure it out. You have to figure it out because you have to have the faith that you can do it." Now, the reason I thought Moiraine killed Asmodean is because of all the foreshadowing. She would say, you know, in book 1, she says, I will even kill you guys if it means that, you know, the shadow would win. And, you know, she was doing all this stuff like winking and going like, oh, I know, you know, basically saying, I know who Jason the Tail is. And I know he's up to no good, and I'm going to get rid of him. And I had that in my mind from the moment I read those words. That like, oh, she's gonna find some way to rip the carpet from underneath his little like pampered feet.
So I have to tell you this.
Why did I have that belief?
Sorry, I was going to say, I have to tell you this. I was a supporter of this loony theory for a while. Now, people will tell you this, which is totally true. I supported basically any theory that wasn't Grendel killed Asmodean. So I wouldn't necessarily take that as like a sign that I actually believed it. But I've supported Avienda. I've supported Moiraine. Look, the way that I think the Moiraine could have happened was this was something that was a request. And so, like, a door's opened, right? A gateway's opened of some sort. And then he's killed because that was a request that she made, not necessarily that she had come back, but that's like that the door opened, but the door opened through a gateway, dead, and then she's still kind of held. So I pushed that one because I was like, that is so much better than any Grendel killed Asmodean stupid ideas.
You know what I'm saying, man? You know what I'm saying? No, like I thought it was some sort of thing where you know how later on, you know, during the Sanderson period, like, you know, people like Piran start folding, you know, Tel'aran'rhiod and stuff like that. I thought it was something like that. And then, you know, they just have like a Quicksilver kind of thing to bind her to their world in the Finns Tower. But whatever.
Yeah.
My point is with Rosamund, like, I'll actually give you like my favorite
what's your
movie. I mean, it's not necessarily Rosamund focused, but it's like, of course it's Pride and Prejudice. Oh, gorgeous.
Okay.
She was gorgeous in that, and
no, go ahead.
Oh yeah. But people forget like her character of Jane. She's beautiful, and of course the main character is Elizabeth Bennet, played by Keira Knightley. But the linchpin to the entire story is this character Jane, who's quiet, unassuming, but a gem. And she's trying to catch the attention of a lord and secure her family's future. And she does everything, almost every important thing off screen is around what Jane is doing and how is Jane doing. And Moraine's the same. Like, she doesn't necessarily, as it turns out in the series of Wheel of Time, she doesn't necessarily have to be in the scene to be the most important thing about the story. So, like, she has this role in Pride and Prejudice where everybody is worried about Jane, and I honestly think, like, Jane is not so innocent and pure and like a flower to look at. She has her own means and her own quiet way of, I guess, manipulating and turning things to her favor in almost an impossible manner. She gets her ulterior motives done, and you just have faith. She just has faith that the things will turn out in her favor because, like, she has people around her that go to bat for her. And if that's kind of like a manipulation, it's the gentlest, like, most Zen manipulation there is, because you just believe in this person and then you do things and it ends up being in everybody's favor. So
I love how you're kind of I love the analysis you just did. That's great. Yeah. Well, Art, thank you for being our last caller, and I love, like you said, pairing Jane to Moiraine here. That's awesome, and I love the theory, the Looney theory. I appreciate knowing that you were among the few of us that would have supported that theory. I still love it. I still love that theory, even though it's not true.
It's still the best outcome.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been a better story. Let's be honest. That would have been better. Hey, thank you, Art, for being our final caller. I love that, and have a good evening. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Cast. Bye.
Bye. So, Rebecca, what do you think? I know Pride and Prejudice. Do you like this connection he's made between Jane and Moiraine?
I agreed with part of it. I don't think Jane is manipulative. I think she is really just like a crystal clear, honest character. But I like what he said about, not needing to be like the central focus, to be in some ways, something that a story like works around, and I saw that in some other ways, like I mentioned that with Barney's version, that like she's not the central character, but I think she's the character that makes the movie work. And then I didn't really talk about this because we skipped over it, but I saw A United Kingdom.
Oh, yeah, right.
That's a more balanced movie where it's like it's her movie and it's her husband's movie, rather equally. But I think her role is harder in that one, where she doesn't have as much of the like big speech making, moments. She has some. Yeah. But a lot of what she's doing is like listening and reacting. And there's lots in that movie where she has to show how she feels without necessarily as much dialogue. And I think that's the harder thing to do. And so I think she has shown in multiple things that I've seen her in that she can bring out other characters. And that is something that I think Moiraine needs to do. They're starting with the show, making her a focus, but we know that she's not going to remain the focus throughout the run of the show.
Yeah.
So there are other characters who are going to come up to prominence, and she is an actress who I think can make that happen.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate that additional insight. Okay, Marcel, we're down to this final note of when it comes to these two people, right? Moiraine, the character, and Rosamund Pike. Where do you see that she's going to bring like the most strength or the most parody, if you will, becoming or embodying Moiraine? What have you seen about her abilities versus who Moiraine is?
I think the biggest strength is going to be that sort of carrying kind of like the legacy of this, like in the mystique and all the confidence of this character to bear on these people who are kind of very afraid of her, or would be afraid of any Aes Sedai really, and kind of bringing that all to bear and believing it, because I think that's going to be important, because she's kind of like the Gandalf of this series in a way.
Yeah.
But and I think there's going to be an aspect to that where people are going to do that comparison. If it's anything like the book, right, you'll see that comparison, and I think it's going to be. I think she's going to be able to hold up to that, and I think that's going to be a big strength. Just kind of being that kind of all-knowing kind of character that guides the main group, and also is such a pivotal character, even though she's she doesn't necessarily do everything that drives the story forward.
Yeah, I like that. I think she absolutely can carry that. That she's very kind of layered acting, layered personalities. She can do that really well. She, bringing kind of the mystery, just I think she's going to own that part of it. I think we're going to really believe that aspect of her portrayal of Moiraine. Anything else you would add, Rebecca, where you think she's really going to shine as far as that portrayal?
So I agree about the the layered characters that she plays, because I think Moiraine is a very layered character. I think from seeing what she can do in Gone Girl, there's no question that she can play like an enigma of a character where you don't know exactly what her intentions are. I think if you'd seen her in I Care a Lot, you could absolutely believe that she could be playing a character that you should not trust.
Right.
So that she could believably play that aspect of it. I think the sort of the cool surface, the person who can't be ruffled, that's I Care a Lot. And the drive and like the absolute commitment to something. I mean, we certainly saw that in Radioactive. So there's so much, but I think there's nothing that I've thought, well, Moiraine is this, where I've thought, well, I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I think I want to say Hostiles. I really saw that kind of grit aspect to her performance, if I remember correctly. But yeah, all of her performances, when we really focus on the core things of that perseverance and that determination, and and then that mysteriousness and that kind of layered approach, and kind of the iciness, but also the kind of warmth behind that mask that she wears. Yeah, she's shown that time and time again, I believe, in other roles. So yeah, like we've said, I think she picked this role on purpose. I think she wanted to do it, and I think she really believed that she could embody this role. And yeah, after this discussion, I came in thinking she probably could, but as we've talked about it more and more, and as I've watched more of her works, yeah, I agree with you both. Like at this point, I feel like it's a foregone conclusion that she can carry this character. Any concerns, attributes from Moiraine that you say, well, I didn't really see this in her, in the stuff I've seen her in yet. I'm kind of curious if she'll be able to pull this off. Is there anything that kind of comes to mind?
For me, I mean, I don't know that I'm worried about it per se, but we haven't really touched on Lan really. And I think I watched the episode you guys did on Daniel Henney. I don't know. I guess what I'm worried about, I want that relationship to say so much without actually saying anything. So that I think will be interesting to see how she does with that. Like there's such a dynamic that the Emmons Fielders see in that relationship, because it's like, Moraine's like, let's go into the ways. Let's just take that way. And then Lan's like, are you serious? There's a lot of aspects to it where it's like he doesn't necessarily say it like that, right? But I think there's so much to that partnership that needs to kind of be shown without necessarily being, spelled out for us. So that'll be one of the things I'm looking for.
Yeah. I think that's a fair thing. Go ahead, Rebecca.
No, I think that's a good, just the dynamics of that relationship where he is to follow her, but we know as, time goes on, like it gets harder for him, to do that, where it's easy for him at first. And so that exact dynamic is a little different. But you did call out like the partnership she has with Pierre in Radioactive. You could look at the partnership she has in I Care a Lot, that's another one. Although you could look at more of a Moiraine Swan dynamic there, maybe. But
right.
Yeah. But so there are some of those kinds of things where, the relationship that it is in, these parts is important, but it is a little different. So it'll be interesting to see. But I don't have any doubt. I mean, there's really nothing where I was like, this is a huge thing about Moiraine, and I haven't seen her do something like it. So
yeah. Well, I think really excited. I'm glad you both talked about Lan in this because, again, that's one of those where it's kind of a wait and see, right? Like the chemistry on screen, do they have that? And when I say that chemistry, right, that bond, that partnership, that love and respect that they have for each other, does that come across, And that's not something that necessarily one actor can make happen. Both have to be kind of in that moment. Now, we've said that Rosamund it seems like she elevates the performances of those around her in roles. So that does say something towards that kind of question. So yeah, what a great note to end that on. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I think you guys might've pointed it out when the Lan teaser came out, but, and then when subsequently the Moiraine sort of broader teaser came out, we can see more of what's going on. And it's like, he knows she's conjuring some abilities with the one power, and he just like doesn't need to look at it because he knows that he needs to back her up right now in this moment. And it's like, if that's indeed what's happening in those two clips, I think that's a good, kind of, a tip towards that we might get to see a good relationship that's kind of built, maybe just through the storytelling itself and not necessarily through exposition,
Yeah, absolutely.
I also just wanted to add that, I mean, the other relationship that I think is so key that has to be gotten right is Rand and Moiraine.
That's a good one. Yeah,
I touched on Moiraine and Swan, and we touched on Moiraine and Lan because I think those are the other two crucial ones. But Moiraine and Rand is so central, so that's really important.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think all of those, Moiraine and Egwene, there's a lot of them. And so you're right. I mean, that's the big unknown here, right? Is that chemistry between the cast with those additional relationships that she has with others, even with hers with Swan, right? I'm really interested to see how they're going to carry that out, and off. I'm really hoping it's done really well. So, yeah, there's that aspect. I think is a great call out, which is the additional relationships with each other. So, by the way, I just want to say thanks to Vrin. Appreciate your tip. Vrin said, I had seen Rosamund occasionally years ago on TV and always thought of her as a perfect Aes Sedai. That image of her holding the Eye of the World book astonished me and excited me beyond belief. Yeah. That post, I don't have it here, so I can't show it on the screen, but where Rosamund is holding that pose she has is almost very Moiraine-esque, holding this book. So, yeah, absolutely agree. What a great image that we've all used, and how exciting that was to see her holding the Eye of the World. And honestly, it's almost 2 years later. So I did want to, someone noticed this, Miss Sarah James, want to thank you for noticing this. Let's end on this note, WattSeries.com. Hopefully you follow Watt Series. On Twitter, they just posted this news. Let's show it up on the screen here, Taylor. Taylor will throw that to us in just 1 second. And they just tweeted something out about season 1, and as Taylor throws that together, we'll throw this up. But yes, like I said, for Watt Series, you can follow them on the website, but I recommend actually following them on Instagram and Twitter. That's where you're going to get their kind of last-minute latest news. You good to go, Taylor? I'm good now. Okay, so Taylor's going to try to throw that up again for us one more time. Here we go. Watt Series just tweeted, Yosha Stradowski's talent agent posted an update to their site about Watt being renewed for a second season. The post offers additional support on news we've already reported. Number 1, on season 1 airing will happen later this year. And season 2, season 2 will begin production later this year. So there you go. For those kind of curious when we're going to see this, I know a lot of the news is kind of collecting around this idea about it being later this year. So yeah, production for season 2 is on its way, and season 1 seems like it's going to be on its way here at the end of the year. So thank you, Taylor, for showing us that. Appreciate you including that for us. That's a wonderful note to end on. Yeah.
I'd say so.
So yeah, awesome that we saw that right at the end. Thank you, Miss Sarah James, for pointing that out. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Like I said, please do like this video on your way out. We do have an after show on Discord. After every show, we jump over on Discord. You can find the link in the description of this video. I'm sure the admins here in chat will throw the link up here too for you. You can go continue this conversation, talk to us about Rosamund there. We'd love to just keep talking about Wheel of Time into the evening. Some people stick around for hours and just have fun chatting as the evening goes on. So if you would like to, please meet us over there on Discord. I'll jump over there in probably about 10 minutes and say hi too. So thank you all for being here. Rebecca, Marcel, it was awesome of you being here. Really appreciate that. One last note, Rebecca, do you have a video coming out that fans can be excited about? What's your next video that they should?
So I keep delaying this because there's been like lots of like news lately that I've been putting out, but like I said, I've been looking at other fantasy adaptations. So I put out like one spoiler-free video on Shadow and Bone, the adaptation on Netflix, and like pulling some things out from that to like compare to what Wheel of Time might do. So I did a spoiler-free one that talked about the one really big change they made. And then I'm going to do a detailed, like more, in depth with spoilers, talk about some of the changes they made to do their adaptation.
Cool.
We can learn from that to apply to Wheel of Time.
Yeah, I love these discussions all around it, like becoming a character, talking about how adaptations are done, all the prep work we've been doing for ourselves to get ready for our own favorite series being adapted. Because we get it. If this is the first thing you've ever heard of today about Wheel of Time being adapted, there's a little bit of you got to figure things out. You got to take a little bit to acclimate yourself to the idea that there's going to be changes. So that's awesome. Please do check out Rebecca's channel at Reading the Pattern on YouTube. You can find it or the description in this video below. So that's it, everyone. We'll see you on Discord after this. And as we say around here, good night from the Dusty Wheel and smash to black. You went right to kill it. Look at you, you're all ready. You're just done. I mean, this is like, this is
really well. And now I'm like, great, my turn?
And if you don't like that, you want to say, well, Robert Jordan could have made the two rivers all white. He could have, but he didn't.
So, just complimented me on my dress, and as you can clearly see, I'm sad.
I see Nakomi as something along the lines of a Shida Haran analog.
It does make sense why it outlasted the breaking.
Yeah.
See, this is why I have Therese in the show, because she's going to correct everything that.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dusty Wheel Show. What? Meme Off Challenge! Yay!
Pair of like baby face mounted on like a huge body. So like
this
all
is
of a
not
sudden,
just
like,
a traditional fantasy, right? There are sci-fi and elements. Just a moment ago, Rafe tweeted something. So let me get my guests in here with me, and
probably I would say put in 70-80% of the work. I got to be over the shoulder and be like, no,